Why don't you start out by telling us your name, how old you are, and what you're doing at this point?
My name is Ben Kamm. I was born March 21, 1921, so I'm 62. And I'm a manufacturer of ladies' garments in Los Angeles.
Okay. Why don't you tell us some things about your life before the war, where you were, and what your life was like?
Yes, I was born in Warsaw, Poland, and I went to grade school. Then I went to a Jewish gymnasium. When the war started in 1939, I was one of 5 children. We were 5 boys, and I'm the only one alive today from the 5 children. The war started in 1939. I was drafted to the army, to the Polish army.
Let me ask you a couple questions about before the war. Did you live in a small town or a big town?
I lived in Warsaw.
In Warsaw?
I was born in Warsaw, Poland.
Okay. Was your family a close family?
Yeah, we were a very close family.
And how, were you the youngest or the oldest?
No, I was the oldest in the family. And we lived together in my great-grandfather's building. All the uncles and aunts and cousins, we were all together in one building. And my father was a auto mechanic. Later on, he bought a truck and was in transportation business. My mother was a butcher.
A butcher?
Yeah, she used to cut meat in her mother's butcher shop. She used to work for her mother. And we had nice life. Not we were not rich, but lower middle class. But my grandparents were wealthy people, but they didn't share anything with my parents.
Were you raised as a traditional Jew?
Yes, a traditional Jew, but not Orthodox Jew, modern Jew. We didn't know about Reform Jew, but modern Jew. Matter of fact, my grandfather supported a little shul, you know, a little on the corner was a little shul, and he used to support with rent, with cleaning, and all the things. And that's how life was. But in 1939, when the war broke out, was a call for all the boys, 17, 18, to join the Polish army to defend Warsaw. And I was caught in it, and I was drafted to the army, which I was for 3 weeks there, because after 4 weeks, Warsaw capitulated to the Germans. And then started the struggle, because my father left. He left my mother and five kids. My father went on the Russian side, because Russia then occupied the other half of Poland. And my father was in a town, Rovno. And after a few months, my father sent a Polish man to smuggle us over from Warsaw to the other side. But my mother said, how can I leave everything and go there, you know? So he had to come back. And there was a tragedy, because maybe the whole family would be intact, would be alive in Russia, like so many other people.
Because your mother couldn't believe what would happen.
But she had nothing to leave, really. In material things, it was nothing. If you broken furniture, it was nothing. Then we were left without the father, and myself and my younger brother, who was 2 years younger than I was. It was another brother who was 3 years younger than I was. We started to provide for the house, food, you know, everything. So we used to go in business. We used to sell the cards from the Warsaw to the German soldiers who just came in. They used to buy the cards. We used to make a lot of money from them. They didn't know we are Jewish at the beginning. But later on, got tough and tougher. We couldn't do any business with them. We had to register in the Jewish community, as you know, for work for the Germans. So we used to go, I used to have to go to work because I was the oldest. I was 17 or 18. And we had to go to work. And, or you walk in the street, a German caught you, come to work for me. You had to spend a whole day or 2 days there and work. There was nothing there. Then the ghetto started. They started to build walls in Warsaw. We didn't know what for the walls are. Nobody knew.
There was no warning of their intention?
No, nothing. They told us, people were talking this anti-tank walls and this and this. And all of a sudden, one day they clamped down the ghetto. And one day I went to work, sent by the Jewish community to work on the airport in Warsaw. They took apart all the hangars, and they took the steel from this, and they shipped to Germany. We had to load the pieces. They cut them up with the torches, and loaded up the pieces on the wagons and sent to Germany. And I was hit by a German so badly, and I was a very strong boy. If I would have the German one-on-one, I would just squeeze him to death. And I said, I'm not going to the Germans anymore. And I had an aunt in Warsaw, my grandmother's sister, who converted in 1918. She converted to, I don't know if she was Catholic or Protestant, because she married a very famous Polish officer whose brother was one of the two who flew the Atlantic, Kubala. His name was Kubala, in 1931 or something like 29. And she told me, I used to go there, she used to help us a little bit because nobody knew she comes from Jews. And she told me that, you know, it was already end of 1940, she said, I had rumors that they're forming underground movement in near Lublin someplace. And, you know, this stuck in my mind. And I used to go there and she used to tell me the story because she worked for the underground. Her son used to print documents for the POWs, Polish officers who ran away from the POW camps. He should give them the false document that they were not officers, they were just plain citizens. And the ghetto closed, and my brother and I, we had to struggle to make a living. So we used to smuggle from the ghetto, go outside the ghetto to the Polish side, used to smuggle meat through over the wall. We made very good. I mean, we risked our life every day to go out of the ghetto.
What was the ghetto like? Could you describe it a little bit?
It was a part of the city with walls around, and they squeezed all the Jews from neighboring villages, neighboring town in the ghetto. Like, let me say there was a room maybe for 50,000 people, they're squeezing 500,000.
What was the mentality? How were the people feeling in the ghetto? Did they know what was going on?
No.
Were
They knew that we have to work. They knew the Germans wouldn't give us food, but they didn't. I personally had no imagination what happened later.
Was there any violence at that point?
No, we were violent on the part of the Germans and of the Polacks.
Like what?
Like killings, beating ups. The Polacks were just plain murderers.
In the ghetto?
And they used to come to the ghetto too.
And what, could you give me a story?
A story.
Or an instance?
I tell you, I have a story. I'm going to come to this story.
Okay.
A little later on because I have to go.
Sure.
Could
you talk a little bit about your living arrangements personally? Were you with your family?
I was with my family. We lived in a flat in one room. 4 or 5 families in one room. There's maybe 30 people there in one room. But this that didn't bother. You know, as long as nobody kills you, nobody beats you up. So you say to myself, because the idea was that the war wouldn't last more than 3-4 months. Nobody even expected this. This was in your mind, oh, another 3 months, Hitler be out. It's all going to be finished.
Was your family intact at
My
that
father,
time?
everybody was intact. My brother, we did very well. We used to go out of the ghetto. And one day, I was out of the ghetto, and I was walking on the street, and a German soldier called me over. He tells me, hey, Jude, come here. I been kind of Jude. Oh, you, Jude. So I said, this is it. So he took me to work. I had to unload sugar from a truck to a warehouse. And each sack of sugar weighs about 80 kilo, about 180, 160, 170 pounds. And after working for many hours, one sack of sugar fell off my back and broke. And he really ripped it to me. I even today have pains in my tailbone, even up today. I said, oh, no, this is not for me. This is not for me. So I still talk to my aunt, you know, she told me about what's going on in the underground and this. And I used to help her. I used to carry the documents for her from one place to another for my aunt.
How old were you at that time?
Pardon me?
How old were you at that time?
17?
Excuse me for a moment. We have to stop tape for a second. We're having a technical problem. It'll just take a moment.
So then I made up my mind, this is it. And I used to help my aunt, you know, with this I told you before. And I acquainted a Polish girl. I need somebody to help me. Well, I used to, before the ghetto, I used to live in Warsaw at a Polish neighborhood. There were very few Jews there. And every stone knew me in our family, because in the neighborhood our family was very well known. My great-grandfather used to own all the property around there. And I had to, no, I'm jumping already. So I got to, yeah, we got together. I had a lot of friends, boys. And we made up our mind, 11 of my friends, we're going to leave Warsaw. Run away, where my aunt told me is supposed to forming an underground movement in this. So we had to get tickets, but to get the tickets out of the ghetto was very hard for a Jew. You couldn't move. So this Polish girl I acquainted bought us the tickets. And we got out of the ghetto, and I said goodbye to my mother, my father, everybody. And I left. We came to a town. We took the boat, a river boat, up to a town by the name Józefów on the Vistula River. And then we heard there that in another village, I stayed there for a month or so, that some groups are forming there. So I went there with my friends. We found in a village called Księżomierz, near Lublin, we found a group which was forming the Polish partisans. So we joined. I joined with 5 other friends, and the rest went their way, someplace else, I don't know, still today. The end is they were killed by the Polish population. And I met my coming commander, who was colonel in the Polish battalion in Spain in the Civil War in 1936, on the communist side, on the Republican side. And he was the one who was forming the partisan group. And it was fine. We didn't have any guns. We didn't have anything. This was already the beginning of 41. To get guns, we had to go to attack Polish police with sticks, or we saw a policeman on a bicycle, grab him, take the gun away from him, or go to Polish people. Every Polak had a gun. But how to get from him the gun, this was the thing. So we used to scare them. We used to go in, put a hook in the ceiling. If you don't give the gun, we're going to hang you on this thing. They give us the gun, then we had some money. We robbed money from rich farmers. We used to get money. We used to buy the guns from other people. Then we acquired guns, and it was fine. We were not afraid anymore. And then the war started in 1941 with Russia, June 22nd, 1941. They took a lot of prisoners of war, Russian prisoners of war. And then, after a month after the war started, they kept them in camps. And the Russian prisoners of war started to run away from the camps, one by one. And they used to go through the forests, and they met our partisan group. They used to join us, more and more and more and more. That time, in Lublin was a camp Majdanek. You heard of Majdanek. There were Jewish prisoners of war from Polish army who work for the Germans. When the people came in transports came to Majdanek, they used to undress them. They used to look through the clothing. They found any jewelry or something, they used to put away. And 26 of this Jewish prisoners of war ran away from Lublin, from the camp, and joined our partisan group. That time, they brought in they had some money with them, some gold pieces. I don't know what they had. I never saw it. But that time, they were living with us. We lived in the village. There was a winter. And they lived with us in the village. And every night we heard shots. We didn't know what the shots are. And all of it, one is missing from the 26, the Jewish prisoners of war. One is missing, another one is missing, another one is missing, another one is missing. And the farmers, we stayed underground under his house, was a hole digged out, we stayed there, said to me, you guys, watch out because he's going to poison you. He kills all your friends here. So we decided, our group with the few Russians we had, to make an ambush, and we caught 10 of his staff, of our commanders, not him, and we killed them. We choked them to death. We didn't want to use guns because we didn't want to make noise. The Germans shouldn't hear. And then a war started between him and us. So he had to form another partisan group, and we had to get out from there. In that time, more and more Russians start running away from the camps and joined us. In this particular village, they knew me because I was there for a few months. And the Polacks of his tried to kill me. We were then a group of 120. We were more Jews there, but at one point, but there were 3 brothers and a few other Jews were killed by the Polish police. They got drunk, and I didn't go with them. I didn't drink, and they were killed. A Polish farmer called the police that the partisans here, they came and killed them. I was the only Jew left. There were 119 Russians, and I was the only Jew. So this Korczynski, my previous commander, made a war against us. So our place was hot for us, and the Polish population was against us. So we decided to go on the other side of the Bug River, on the western, eastern Ukraine, on the Polish Ukraine. And on the way, we almost got killed and ambushed by the Ukrainian partisans, who were the biggest Jew haters. I mean, it's unreal. You can't describe it. you just can describe it, even on the churches was written, to cut throats of the Jews. Especially when they call the Jew, it's unbelievable.
What would happen?
What?
What would happen if they caught a Jew?
They kill him. They cut him in pieces. Today, the same Ukrainians are in America and in Canada. The same people. The same people. The heroes, because they were fighting for free Ukraine. The same people. When we came on the other side of the book in Ukraine, we found a big Russian partisan group. Under the commander of the group was a Russian general, Fyodorovich. It was a regular army unit. We joined them. We were welcomed. And they found in this group, supposedly was about 19,000 people in our group. This was the main partisan group in the whole Poland and Ukraine. I would say was about 50% Jews who ran away from villages, from towns, and joined the group. We were supplied by Russia because there was another group in Poland, a Polish partisan group, the how do you say it? Armia Krajowa.
National Army.
Pardon me?
National
Army, who was supplied by England. They didn't take Jews. They killed the Jews. They helped kill the Jews. So the Jew had no place where to go but to join the Russian army, the Russian partisans. And this was really good for us because we got arms we used to get drops from Russia, machine guns and everything. We used to go on operations. We used to mine roads. We used to mine warehouses. We used to mine railroads. Matter of fact, in 1943, our group demolished 541 trains going to the Eastern Front. How we do know? Because we had to give a report from each operation, what happened. And during that time, there was not so much anti-Jewishness in the thing. But in 1943, they picked out 1,200 people, Polish citizens, in this partisan group. And we had to go back to Poland. We formed another group, call it after famous Polish writer Wanda Wasilewska, who lived in Russia. And our primary goal was to arm more Polish people against the Germans. We used to get arms from Russia. We could arm a big army. We had to go back to Poland. We had 1,200 people, a lot of Jews, a lot of Polacks. And then we went back to Poland. We also established a camp. While we traveled through the forest in Poland, we had a camp for women, children, and older people. What we found on the way, they couldn't defend themselves. We had close to 3,000 people in a camp. But we guarded, we fed them, we did everything for them. Matter of fact, I have to go back. In our group, when we were in Ukraine, we had 5 doctors from Russia. We had a pharmacy. We had a little factory. We used to fix shoes, used to fix pens. We had everything. It's unreal. And we were behind the German lines. 30 miles around us was not one German to be found. We chased them out, and they were afraid to come into the forest. They were completely afraid. We dominated the whole thing. Now, when we came back to Poland, we had a lot of problem with the Polish partisans because every time we went someplace, we used to walk through the forest or the fields one by one. In the end, used to get the shots in the villages from the Polacks because they were afraid to start at the beginning. They used to hit them in the back. So we burned a few houses. We used to do this. Then we got to, we had a radio station also with us, but we used to send messages to send us ammunition or guns or anything we needed to supply people in Poland to make the army bigger. Yeah, then in 1943, I heard that there's a hunger in Warsaw ghetto. I couldn't sleep. I said, oh my God, my father, my mother, my brothers, they're hungry, they're dying. So I talked to my commander and I said, no, I cannot be here. I have to go back to Warsaw and see what's going on. And I still had contact with this girl I told you in the beginning. So I told her, I found out where she is, and I rode with a horse or something to her, and I told her I want to go back to Warsaw, I want to bring some food to the ghetto to my family, and if she could help, she would help me. So I left the partisan group, and I went. I load myself, I put strings on my pants here, I load up with all kind of food there, beans and stuff, my pockets, my sleeves, all over. And I went back to the ghetto, I smuggled myself into the ghetto, and I went to my mother and father, and I left the food, I was there for 2 days, and I went back. And thus happened, this girl used to live next to the ghetto. She used to have an apartment. And I went up with her from the ghetto. I went to her apartment because she's supposed to go with me back to buy me a ticket to go back. She went down. No, she was in the house. I was going down the stairs in her house. A Polish policeman in SS was going up. And I met them halfway. I was going down, they were going up. And they went to her apartment looking for me. I don't know. I passed them by, and then I met her, and I took the riverboat, and I went back. I went back to the partisan group, and then we continue our work. We used to go on operation, used to mine again roads and railroads and supply this. We used to make ambushes on the roads for single guys on the motorcycle, on the car. The Germans were going already back a little bit from Russia, you know. That time the Germans sent to clean our group out because they were afraid of us. They sent 75,000 soldiers. It was near Lublin. Matter of fact, I have an article about the whole in Jewish. It was written down. The man who I told you I met him after 40 years, he wrote an article in the Jewish paper a few years ago. The Germans sent 75,000 soldiers to clean us out. And we fought with them 16 hours in 1 square mile. They cornered us, closed us up. We fought, we lost 35 people. We killed 1,800 Germans. And we got out of the grip of theirs. And we still continue our operations. But there was a lot of Jewish boys and girls. It's unbelievable. I don't think anybody wrote about it. I mean, heroes that, you know, we were brought up in Poland about a Jew. That Jew is afraid to fight. He cannot be this, he cannot do this, he cannot do this, can be a soldier, cannot be an officer, cannot be a policeman, cannot be a pilot. In the war, we found out that the Jews are better fighters, better do anything than anybody else. Because I saw, heroes. They were with me together. They were not afraid of being killed or something going to happen to them. Absolutely, it's unbelievable. If you see now in the state of Israel what's happening. But we were fed all the years this anti-Semitism from I don't know where this come from. That we even ourselves believed that this is true. We believe that this is true. But it was the other way around. We saw what happened when the Polish army capitulated after 4 weeks. What fighters they were. I personally have to say, through my experience in Poland and living in Poland, if not the collaboration of the Polish population, half of the Jews would have still be alive, because the Germans could not have to be going to the Germans couldn't go into the forest because they were so afraid to go in. They came on the perimeter of the forest, but they didn't go inside. And the Jews who were hidden in the forest could live their life out. The few years they would be alive. But the Germans got a trick. They made, for each Jew the Polak brought in, they gave him a pound of sugar and a bottle of whiskey. So these murderers went in there and took him out to get the sugar and the whiskey. Then after the war, not after the war, in 1944, this continued, the operations and this. They want to send me, I took part in liberation of a city named Kamm. You heard about Kamm. And I also took part in liberation of another town, Janów Lubelski, near Lublin. And then the western part of Poland was not liberated yet. So they want to send me again to the western part of Poland. I said, nothing, I'm not going. So they sent me in Kamm to organize the police. The first city, Polish city, to reorganize the police, and I was part of the government there. And I had a lot of friends with me who were with me in the partisans. And one day, the Polacks shot one of my friends. A few weeks later, they shot another my friend. The Germans were not there anymore. Then I lost 4 friends in 1944 from the Polish people who killed them in the street. One day, I was going to a movie in Kamm. I walked out of the movies, and somebody shot with a machine gun after me in the street in the evening, about 10 o'clock. And I said, this is it. I want to tell you how I used to go to sleep in Poland in 1944. I lived with a Polish family. They didn't know I was Jewish. I was in uniform. I was an officer. I used to have a submachine guns on my side, 2 grenades, and a side pistol with me. That's how I used to go to sleep every night. Otherwise, you're dead. You're absolutely dead.
The people were trying to kill you. Were they trying to kill you because you were a Russian officer or
No.
because you were Jewish?
Jewish. They killed Jews. My 4 friends they killed. They were Jews, all Jews. I have another friend who is in Israel, who both arms were shot. Only were Jewish. Then I said to myself, no, I want to live. Actually, I want to make the army my
career.
Yeah, I want it as a career because I liked it. I liked the life of it. But what I saw what's going on is it's no good. So I left I ran away from the army, from the police, but it was army. It wasn't really police, it was army. And I went to Danzig with a friend of mine who also from Kamm. This was already 1945. I went to Danzig and we lived there a few weeks, and I met, I heard a friend of mine who was before there said, you know, there's 3 or 4 girls have a little restaurant in Danzig. So I went there and I saw few girls who were liberated from Stutthof, near Danzig was a concentration camp. And my wife was, future wife was there. And I met her, start talking, you know. I used to go there, I used to drink a lot. And the partisans, I used to drink a lot of alcohol. They used to give us, we took away from the Germans once, 10,000 liters of pure alcohol. We buried in the forest. We buried so many things in the forest, it's unreal. So we took away from the Germans, because on every operation that we used to go and dynamite the train, they used to send packages to the soldiers on the Eastern Front. They used to send uniforms to the Eastern Front. They used to send watches to the Eastern Front. We used to grab it, you know, what we could. We couldn't use it, we buried it. So I met my wife, and we didn't think about it, but it was good company, you know. After so many years, you meet nice Jewish girls. And then, after a few months, we talked about getting married. And we married. And they said, wouldn't last, you know, he's drinks and he this and this and this. So, lasted for 38 years already. At that time, my wife's brother, Freddie Diamond, he heard that she's alive. He needed to know. And I used to go around with a gun always with a gun. You couldn't walk around without a gun, because the Russian soldiers used to rob you blind. They used to rob the houses, used to rape the girls, used to do everything. And one night, I hear a knock on the door. It was curfew, after curfew. And I went to the door. Who is it? So he said, is Ellie Diamond here? So she heard from the other room. She said, oh, my brothers. Yeah. And that's how she met. And then Freddie made us leave Poland. We went to Germany. We want to go to Israel, to Palestine. And we went back to Ellie's town. Ellie's my wife's from Germany. And we were stayed there for a few weeks. I couldn't stand being with the Germans. I don't know, it did something to me. We left and we joined a kibbutz. You know what kibbutz is? Agricultural school in Fulda in Germany. We stayed there for, I think, a year and a half. My older daughter was born there. And then, excuse me, yes, when my wife was pregnant, we wanted to go on the Aliyah bet to Israel, and the illegal Aliyah, but she was pregnant, they wouldn't take her. So she had the baby in Fulda. And then we left the kibbutz, and Freddie, her brother, left for Israel with the illegal Aliyah, with the Exodus, with the first ship. Then we lived in Stuttgart for a while. Then we went to Germany. From Stuttgart, we went to United States. I didn't have any trade. I didn't know nothing about it. Yeah, there's a good story in Danzig. I knew I had family here in America. I have an uncle, my father's brother in Paris, for years. But there was no mail right after the war. In 1945, a ship came to Poland with, like, for stud cattle. They sent to Poland right after the war. And I met a boy who didn't speak English. He didn't speak English. I didn't speak English. He didn't speak Polish or German or Russian. And somehow we communicate somehow. And I told him I have an aunt, 2 aunts, an uncle and cousins here. But I remember only one address. So I wrote down on a piece of paper. And this young man, you wouldn't believe it, he wasn't from New York. He came back with the empty ship here to New York. He went himself to my aunt and told her that I'm alive. And we start communicating, you know. And then a few months later, I met a French officer. A few weeks later, I met in Danzig a French officer. And I told him I had an uncle before the war in Paris, and I gave him the address. And he went to my uncle. That's how I got communicate. So when to my family, my 2 aunts who lived in Brooklyn, they brought me over here. But I had to learn something to make a living. I had a child and a wife. And Ellie has another brother who is my wife, who is a rabbi. Well, he wasn't a rabbi then. So he prepared an apartment for us. We were lucky, but that time was very hard to get an apartment. And I went to the garment industry. It was the easiest thing to learn. So I learned certain things to do. Then I made a living. I make $40 a week, first $25 a week. Then after a few weeks, I make $45 a week. I used to work for a man named Schwartz. I used to, Mr. Schwartz, I just came here. I have no money. I have a wife and a child. I can make a living from this. Rent was $57, you know. So he gave me another $15 or $20. I make $65. Then I learned more. I went to the union. I got the scale, $92. I was a prince. I mean, my friends used to make $40 a week. You said, my God, to make $90 a week in 45. And I learned more. I went to school. I went to chic pattern making in New York. I went to designing school. And I learned a lot. Then I said to myself, oh no. I went on another job. I heard there's some mafia shops. I don't care who they all belong or not, as long as they pay me. So I went to work and I made $140 first week when I went to them. I was really rich. And I was making good money. Then I had an uncle in New York. I don't know if this would be interesting to you. Because this is a bad story about my family. Can I tell you?
If you want to, go ahead.
Yeah. I had an uncle in New York who was a very wealthy man, my mother's brother, who was in the pocketbook business. Came over to me. I was making then over $200 a week. He said to me, Benny, I'm going to retire soon. I want you to be in the business with my sons. It's going to be for you guys, fancy spiel, you know. So I took this blow from him and I went to work for him. I suffered with him for 4 years. It's unreal. Unreal. This man was a, can I use a swear word? A bastard. I mean, the worst. The worst. I give more to charity today than he ever gave in his life. I could hardly make a living with him. He ran away from him. After 4 years, I kept telling my wife, Ellie, I can't stand it. He made my life miserable. And I came to college. I had a very dear friend who was an engineer for Libroscope. And he said to me, come here. So I...
Could we go back a little bit?
Yeah, go ahead.
What happened to you, to your family, and how did you find out what
My
happened?
family, my family, all family went to Treblinka, end of 1943, because I got a letter once through a Polish farmer, which I used to send letter, give him a letter. He sent to Warsaw to my aunt. And she used to smuggle to somebody to think that my mother registered with my family for work in the East. I don't know if you know the story. And this is the end of it. They were killed in Treblinka, my whole family. And a lot of my cousins died from hunger in Warsaw ghetto. I have a cousin in Canada, in Montreal, who ran away from Treblinka. He is maybe 2 or 3 alive today. We were a very big family, about, I would say, 200 people, with cousins and aunts and uncles, and were very close, all of them. And that's how it ended. You know, when we were in the partisans, we heard about what's going on. We didn't know. So our group paid the engineers on the railroad find out what's happening, because they were working on the trains. Then we found out that the Germans made concentration camps, and they used to take the Jews there and kill them there. But I just don't understand that we never had an order to attack a camp. We liberated one camp. This is a terrific story. We were 12 people. We decided, without our commander, to liberate a camp. Janiszów-Lubelski was a labor camp. It was in 1941. There were 600 Jews in the camp working on the Vistula River. We sat there in the field on a sunny day, and with hardly any guns, with any bullets. We had guns, but very few bullets. I had 3 bullets with my gun. I had a gun from 1863, a Russian gun. And that evening we attacked the camp. The commander of the camp was a Polish Volksdeutscher. You know what a Volksdeutscher is? A Polish citizen who had parents were German, come from Germans. SS officer. We killed this guy. We liberated the camp. And nobody went. I took with me a guy, a doctor was there, Dr. Gross. This is another story. Dr. Gross was with me together, and we left. We took all the horses Peter Ignor had. We destroyed the camp and told the people, you want to go with us? Come with us. Nobody went. This Dr. Gross was with me for 1 year. After the year, he ran away from the partisan group, went back to Krakow, where he comes from, and he became a doctor in Plaszow concentration camp. Then he was hanged after the war because of collaboration. Anyway, you asked me another question.
When you were in the partisans
Yes.
and you heard about what was going on, how did you feel?
What can I say? We felt we couldn't help. We couldn't do anything about it.
Did you witness any of the atrocities or see any of the concentration camps?
No, no. I was in Majdanek the next day after the liberation because I went from Kamm to Majdanek. But on the way, I saw in the forest atrocities made by the Polacks.
Like what?
I saw in one particular case where 40 women, men, and children were cut up in pieces and left laying in the forest. They were killed by Polish citizens. And I saw many single cases where the bodies were laying killed by Polacks. Not wanted. As I said before, you see, my thinking is, the Germans had a government and told them there's a law against the Jews. They have to kill the Jews or kill gypsies. But nobody gave the law to the Polacks to kill them. They did on their own free will. It is in their gut. It's in their gut, this hatred to the Jew. Because as a small child, when there were 2 Jews in the school, but we had to fight every single day, because we were Jewish. We had to, all our lives. At the university in Warsaw, a Jew couldn't sit in the classroom. I don't know if you heard about it. You had to stay in the left corner. And the best doctors, best engineers were Jews in Poland. Most educated people were Jews. I just doesn't go in my head. And they lost a lot. That's what they have today, what they have. Believe me, I don't feel sorry for them. Not a bit. It's coming to them for many, many years. I hope they stay there and keep them under the boot a little bit. You can ask a question.
You said that you went to Majdanek after
right,
liberation. Could you describe what you saw there?
What I saw piles of hair, piles of glasses in different buildings, and I saw piles of eyeglasses and shoes and all kind of things, and still bodies around. A lot of things were there. And also I met there's a parents' house in Lublin with a lot of girls from Majdanek, Hungarian Jewish girls, were stationed there. So I went and meet them. Oh, in Lublin, in Kamm, we organized a shul, a little synagogue. Matter of fact, in Kamm, we liberated 16 Jews when we took over Kamm. They were in prison because the Germans needed them for some work. They were tailors, shoemakers, carpenters, and Germans wanted to kill them because they didn't know we're going to liberate the town so fast. Because the Russian army went with panzers, like the front is here, they cut in here, went here, and the whole area was already gone. They didn't go in one front. They cut in here and turn around there. So they were caught in pajamas, actually, the Germans. So they couldn't kill the Jews, and they barricaded themselves in the cells, the 16 Jews, and that's how they were liberated. And we also established something in Kamm that maybe people don't know. There's a Jewish lady opened a coffee shop in Kamm. And that time we had a little bit already, a few Jews coming to Kamm who survived the Holocaust. And because Kamm was a big town, big, considerably big. And a lot of Russian soldiers, Jewish Russian soldiers, came and they wanted to leave Russia, wanted to go to Palestine. And we, in a small way, supply them with some money, they should go. a point, in effect, is when I was in Danzig, a Russian sergeant came to us, a Jew. He said to me, my wife, me, he would like to leave Russia, he want to go to Palestine. So we thought it's a trap from the Russians, a trap. So we were afraid. He took a knife, he said, cut his hand. He said, I have Jewish blood. He cut his hand. He has a Jewish blood. We didn't believe him. We didn't believe, we were afraid. When my wife and I left Danzig, went to Germany, to Frankfurt am Main, there was a big kibbutz there, preparation for Israel. Whom do you think I meet there? This sergeant. Without us, he got himself into Germany, he went to Palestine, to Israel. And we sent a lot of the soldiers from Kamm who went to Germany. And he asked me more questions.
When you went into going back a little bit to when you went to the liberated concentration camp, you saw all the evidence of the atrocities, but did you talk with the people there?
No. Oh, I want to bring out something. Go ahead. When we liberated this labor camp, as I said, 600 people there. About 4 or 5 months ago, I'm a member of the 1939 club. We had a meeting, our club. We were talking about resistance. They say that the Jews didn't resist. It's not true. There's thousands of Jews who fought in the partisan groups and resisted. Not only resisted the Germans, but resisted the Polacks and resisted the Ukrainians, because they all were the same. They killed the Jews, the Ukrainians, the Polacks, and the Germans. Then I stood up and I was talking about that it's not true, that the Jews did resist, who could resist it. Matter of fact, that whenever I took part in liberation of a camp, and there were 600 inmates, and nobody wanted to join the partisans. How is this? A man stood up, who is a member of the 39 Club. He said, I was in that camp that night. I was in the camp. Were you afraid that you're not real partisans? That's the story. They were afraid. You see, it was very hard. It was very hard to go any place, because everybody was not only afraid of the Germans. It wasn't bad. The Germans wasn't bad. You could hide from the Germans. But the Polacks, people could leave villages. They could leave, go to the forest, but they're afraid on the way a Polak going to find them, going to kill them. Or the Polish police is still worse.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.